Julia, do you want to start letting people in? Hi, everyone. Hope you guys can all hear me and see me. We are going to jump in. Let me just share my screen. I'm super excited for day 3, the final day of the Ready to Invest workshop. So excited to have you here. As I'm getting ready to share my screen, I'd love to hear in the chat from you what has been your biggest shift in the last 3 days of everything we've gone through. It's always super exciting to see the changes that you are immediately experiencing. So I'd love to hear what you've been able to implement so far that's been a big shift for you in what you're creating in your business. And then we're going to go ahead and as you're typing that in, I'm going to jump in and start talking about what we've gone over the last 2 days and what we're talking about here today. So on the first day, we talked all about the premium client. We broke down the key markers, understanding what it meant to speak to and understand your premium client and knowing those markers for them. Then we talked about the actual systematic approach of how we move them, those premium clients into actually being able to say yes. So that was day 2, talking all about flipping the switch and getting them into action. And today we're going to talk about messaging moneymakers. So I joke a little bit about the fact that day 1 is kind of the who, day 2 is kind of the how, and day 3 is kind of the what. So today we're talking all about messaging moneymakers. Okay. So again, we talked about who the right people are. So knowing Ready to Invest, knowing how to get people moving into action starts with us understanding who those people are. So that's exactly what we did on the first day, is really understanding our premium clients, understanding who they are, how they operate, and what type of decisions they make. So on day 2, we really talked about that. So we want to talk about now what it means to say the right thing in order to support them in that process. So here's what we need to understand. I think we all agree that people are distracted, okay? There's life, there's family, there's business, and shorter attention spans are happening more than ever before, okay? We see the TikTok generation of the world, but our attention spans are really short. And the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of the same. We talked about a little bit about that copy and paste, seeing the same thing over and over again. And it's starting to feel like it's harder to stand out and harder to gain attention, right? And the truth of the matter is there's so much information at your potential client's fingertips. So I need to give you a cold, hard fact. The truth of the matter is the average American sees something like 4,000 to 10,000 ads daily. Sounds crazy, sounds ludicrous, but if you think about it, if you wake up and you're scrolling on social media, you're already inundated with that, right? To listening to the radio, to a podcast, to watching TV, you're seeing ads constantly, okay? So an average American sees 4,000 to 10,000 ads daily. They're only going to notice about 100 of them, okay? 100 things that they're noticing out of those ads that they see. And they're going to remember even less. So not only does it feel like it's hard to get their attention, it's feeling harder to keep that attention. Drop yes if that feels like you feel like you're always on this search and this hunt to try and gain attention and keep attention. And it kind of just feels like this rat race of kind of chasing these things. Now, the thing about that is that's not sustainable, right? We can't sustain chasing attention. We can't sustain chasing demand, because as the marketplace grows and continues to move, that means that we're going to have to constantly move and gain more attention. So I want to share a quick story. The other day, I was deciding to bake a cake with my daughter, okay? Never had baked this carrot cake before, and we decided that we were going to go ahead and try it out. We didn't take out all the ingredients, and she was giving them to me one at a time, and we were kind of going through and trying to figure it out. And I immediately felt really frustrated because as I was trying to do it, she was handing me one ingredient and one here and one there. And I kept asking her, but what happened before that? And what happens after that? If you've ever tried to cook something and you're kind of trying to like throw all the pieces together, and it wasn't going well. So I actually looked over at her and I told her, let's just get in the car. Let's just go to Bristol Farms. We'll just go buy a carrot cake there, right? She pleaded with me not to do that. She was like, please, no, let's try to make the cake. And I said, okay. So we tried again. But this time we printed out the recipe. We gathered the ingredients. We read through those ingredients a few times, and then we sat down, and within 40 minutes, we had put all the pieces together, and we make this delicious carrot cake, right? But why am I telling you this story is because this is so much like what we do in our business. We take one ingredient and we've decided we want to create this beautiful cake at the end, which is getting our clients to say yes, but we're trying to get one ingredient at a time. And our audience is getting tired. They're saying, I'm just going to go to Bristol Farms and buy this cake because it's too much for me to try and piecemeal all the ingredients together. This is where our messaging creates that cohesiveness, creates something that's memorable, gets people to have something on their mind that they can't get off of it. So that's what we want to talk about when it comes to messaging moneymakers, is understanding what it looks like to have the right ingredients that make your messages make money. Okay. So there's 3 core factors, 3 things that you need to understand when it comes to your messaging specifically. So we talked again about premium clients. We talked about the system that gets your premium clients into action. Now what we're trying to do is understand at the core of all of those things is the messaging. The messaging is what actually moves people. The messaging is what actually gets people to see see and understand what you're doing. Without the messaging, all of these other things are just tactics and hacks. Okay. So 3 things that you need as your money maker ingredients are: number 1, it needs to disrupt their thought pattern. Okay. The industry, the market is really inundated with information. If we feel like, oh no, are my slides not changing again? All right, let's try this again where we're going into, can you see my slides here? I don't actually have the slides for the disrupting the patterns yet. Don't worry, I will break this all down. I'm just gonna give you the information first. So number 1 is that we're disrupting their thought patterns, okay? Again, this is the point of they're giving so much information. They're seeing so much on the internet. If we can't disrupt that thought pattern, we blend into the background. I don't know about you, but I don't want to blend into the background. I don't want to look and sound and feel like everybody else. So number 1 is that disrupting that thought pattern. And I'm going to explain to you how we do this, but it really comes down to understanding that high intent problem and crashing through those thoughts, giving them a way to process through that in a way that they haven't before. Number 2 is it gets them to see a new perspective, right? They're seeing a new shift and visualizing you as a new solution for them. And the number 3 is it moves them into action. It's something that they can't stop thinking about. Okay. If you've ever watched a show on Netflix or any other place and you watched one episode and now you can't stop thinking about it because you're like, oh my gosh, I want to see what happens next. This is so incredible. It started to get your brain moving in all these different directions. Okay. So let's talk about the first piece, which is breaking patterns. Okay. We talked about this. So the before state of breaking that patterns, and so that you understand what we're creating to fill for that, is that they're currently filled with so much information. We talked a little bit about this, right? That in the industry right now where they're at, they have so much information. So what they're doing is they're seeking clarity. You become the clarity dealer, okay? High intent clients want clarity. Your solution provides clarity. Your messaging creates clarity, okay? Drop clarity, because I want you guys to understand that your goal of your messaging to break a pattern is to give them clarity. If your messaging is not giving them clarity, it's simply producing more noise. Because your premium ready to invest client wants to make the right decision. We talked about how marketing is simply getting the right people to make the right decision. Okay. So here's what you need to understand. When it comes to breaking those patterns, getting people excited means that we need to be able to accomplish these things, to break that thought pattern, to disrupt what they're currently thinking. We need to meet their premium needs. We need to feel like we're in their head. Okay. If you've ever had that happen before, you've stumbled upon something and you're like, oh my gosh, it feels like this person is reading my diary, because it feels like they understand you in a way that nobody else has. Now, a key factor in this is, do you understand your premium client and what they've experienced, what they've gone through? If you don't, then you can't be in their head. You're not speaking from that place. That's why you see each thing of what I'm teaching over the last 3 days compounds upon each other. The next piece is knowing their triggers. We talked about this a little bit on our implementation call today, but we talked about understanding someone's trigger points. People have trigger points that get them to actually move into action. When we understand this, when we speak to it, when we can actually show them the pathway, it breaks a pattern for them. And then lastly is calling out the gap. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about what this means. But again, if you think about it, that everyone's talking about the same thing in circles. They're saying the same types of things. If you're an energy healer, they're talking about energy in a similar way to you. If you're a copywriter, they're talking about copy in a similar way to you, right? They're thinking of the same things and saying, okay, this is just more information. And it gets to a point where we're indecision takes over because it's so much. But when we trigger a thought pattern that calls out the gap, we create clarity. It's like a spotlight that we create for them. So what does it mean to call out the gap? What does that create for us? If you understand your market and you know the triggers and you know the opportunities that are out there, and knowing the fact that our premium clients have already done a lot of that heavy lifting we talked about in the decision making, they've already understood their problems, they've already sought out solutions, they know what's out there. We're trying to create that clarity for them. We want to know what's the gap. Why have they not moved forward up until this point? What's the reason? Why have they felt stuck in where they are? And I'm going to take away the idea of saying money, because again, we're speaking to a client who is prioritizing this. So they're thinking to themselves, I have to have this, right? Why haven't they made a decision up until this point? Okay, drop why, because I want you to start thinking about that. If you cannot answer that question, if you cannot answer why they haven't actually made a decision up until this point, why they haven't chosen something else, even if they've worked with other people, I'm talking about in this very moment, why have they not taken action? Reason why is typically because they feel like something's missing, or they feel like that solution sounds like something else they've done before. It doesn't give them a feeling of this is going to be the solution I need. Okay. Which ultimately comes down to how we position our message, okay? How we position our message is going to help them trigger that this is a solution that can fix me here and now. So we can move them into saying, I no longer am waiting and seeking and looking. This is what I need. Here's what it needs to be able to do in order to accomplish that. I call this like we position the innovation, okay? Understanding a gap in the market. We can now give a new, fresh perspective to that gap, okay? It's our opportunity to say, hey, I know you've seen a lot of things out there before. I know you've maybe even tried a lot of those things out there before, and you're wondering why they haven't worked. Here's a fresh perspective on why that hasn't worked for you. Now, second to that is that it takes the pressure off of them, because remember, they've tried things. They're not someone who's just starting out trying to figure out the pieces. They've attempted this before. So they don't feel like it's just them, okay? It needs to relieve some of that pressure off of them, that the reason it hasn't worked before wasn't just their fault. It was that maybe they didn't have the right solution. And I'm going to give you an example of this in a minute, okay? And then lastly is it gets them thinking bigger. It allows them to start visualizing an opportunity. So I use this example a lot, but raise your hands if you've ever heard of Robert Atkins and the Atkins diet, okay? Give me a yes or a hands up in the chat if you've heard of him, right? We've all heard of the Atkins diet, and we've all heard of Robert Atkins. Now, back in the 80s when this diet came out and when he was breaking into the market, most people were teaching weight loss in the same way as everyone else. Some formula of you have to eat low calorie, low fat, and you have to diet, right? That's the same old things they've heard over and over again. When we talk about literally adding to the noise, that's the message that was being in the noise. And so he had to come in and say, here's my choice here. I either try to break into this market, saying the same things, and fight for attention, fight for market share, try and create a space for myself, and always have to hustle to stay top of mind, to share more, do more, be more, or he could solve for a gap. Okay. So a gap in the market back then was this idea that low fat, low calorie was the only way to lose weight, but all these people were hungry. People were so hungry and they felt like, I can't stick to this diet. I'm either not going to go on it because I've tried it before and it hasn't worked for me, or I've tried it and it's not working long-term for me. So he solved for the gap in the market being that people were always hungry. So he solved for that problem, created the Atkins diet that literally told people they didn't have to be hungry, that they could lose weight and not feel like they were always starving themselves. So in doing so, he created an innovative solution to a gap, which meant he didn't have to fight for attention. He didn't have to create market share. They came to him because he solved a gap. Okay. Do you see the difference in us being able to communicate and create messaging and positioning that solves for the gap instead of us saying, let's lose weight like everyone else has. Let's create copy like everyone else has. Let's heal energy like everyone else has. Because that's too much for them to process. So drop gap if you guys understand, because this is the difference between asking your audience to just trust you, that you have a way, that you solve a problem, but you don't express the gap. You don't express how there's a gap and how you solve that gap in a way that's innovative, that changes the game, just like the Atkins diet. Okay. This is what we want to be able to do. And when we accomplish this, we get people thinking bigger, visualizing opportunities they may never have realized before, because up until this point, they thought that only this one single step ahead of them was available. So they played small, they stayed small. They only looked at what was here because there was no option. But the Atkins diet, just like you solving for your gap, takes the pressure off of them. It tells them, guess what? It's not your fault alone that you weren't able to lose weight. You were always hungry. How are you supposed to do that? How are you supposed to achieve that, right? It takes that pressure off of them and gives them relief. It gives them a new perspective to say, hey, what if I told you it wasn't about just low fat, low calorie? What if there's a better way to do this? And it gives them that opportunity to see bigger. This is what allows us to create hook, line, and sinker, making it make sense to people, okay? And I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about what this looks like, but I want you guys to understand our message is purely blended in with how we position that message, okay? Because you can say all the right things, but if you aren't positioning it to the right people in the right way, in a way that makes you look like the knight in shining armor, then they're always going to be chasing the next thing, okay? Is this making sense to you guys so far? Are you starting to see the opportunity in us creating the message, but also positioning that message to the right people in the right way that positions you as this incredible and only incomparable solution, as I call it, okay? So let's talk about hook, line, and sinker. Now what we do once we understand those pieces, once we get the fact that it's about that messaging and positioning, how can we get people in hook, line, and sinker, making it make sense for other people? Now, here's the deal. Most marketing right now is based on intrigue and attraction, okay? There's a lot of attraction marketing and intrigue marketing, which is like giving people a bare minimum amount of information and asking them to kind of trust you, jump in, say, yeah, this sounds good, right? With no information on how it actually works, and therefore giving them no sense of relief that it's going to work for them. You use catchy words. It gives the allure of making you feel important and making them feel like this is an opportunity. But the problem is it makes them question things. It makes them work for it. It makes them search. It makes them feel like they're not sure. Okay. And I say this all the time, but stop asking your audience to blindly trust you. Okay. That's not fair to anyone. You cannot ask your audience to blindly think that you can solve their problem when they don't know how you do it, when they haven't been able to see how it happens. You're just saying, guess what? I can help you get 20 clients a month, but I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to break it down for you and show you how this solves a gap. And therefore, I become someone who competes based on price. And inadvertently, you're making your audience work harder for it. So I developed something called one-touch messaging, okay? And the reason I developed this is because I am an impatient person and I hated the idea that I had to wait for forever for someone to be able to say yes. I truly believed that if we gave people the right information, they could make the right decision, okay? But everything out there has taught us the complete opposite, that we need to give them more information over a longer period of time and that people can't actually make decisions quickly. But in this day and age where information is a dime a dozen and they can get it anywhere, if we can capture them in the very first moment, they become die-hard fans. It only takes one touch, okay? They don't need more time. They don't need more information. They just need the right information to help them make the right decision, okay? The problem is most people leverage messaging that gives them bites. Okay. It's like giving someone a bunch of appetizers and asking them to make that a full meal out of it. Those people never feel satisfied. They're always feeling like you're giving them one bite, but they're not quite sure how to actually feel full from it. Okay. But here's the difference. One-touch messaging, the way I break this down, I'm going to show you an example, is about being able to give them the opportunity to go through that journey all at once. We talked yesterday about how people make decisions, but guess what? People can make decisions quickly if they're given the right information in order to do so. So instead of giving them those appetizer bites, you give them something that clicks. It disrupts their thought patterns. It puts them into a state of already thinking outside of the box, thinking away from everything they've seen before. Therefore, already taking you out of a space of trying to compare yourself, where they're now already saying, I've never seen this before. I've never heard this before. This is intriguing. It's creating a pattern of new opportunities for them. And now everything that you start to say starts to make sense to them. They start to want it to make sense to them because one shift has already made sense and everything else starts to fall in line. Okay. It's creating this belief of everything you're doing is gold because now they can see it. Now, how do we do this? How do we actually achieve a way that one touch can create a result that we want, like signing clients with one single message? I'm going to show you the difference between two different kinds. Okay. This is intrigue messaging. This is client attraction style messaging. And yeah, this is something I posted. Okay. You're going to see it's pretty viral. Got like almost 2,000 people who commented. Now, if you were to see this, you probably think, oh, she probably got a ton of clients out of this. Okay. Here's the truth. This type of marketing leaves people wanting more and therefore oftentimes attracts people who need more. They need to satiate. They need to keep getting more information and more information. So while this is good and I have a system that develops this, this is not what I want to be able to do, right? I don't want to have to work through tons of leads and slowly convert them. I don't want to have to drag them along the way and push them through the process, okay? So drop viral if you've ever thought that it's about going viral. It's about getting a lot of people commenting on your content in order to reach your revenue goals, reach your impact goals. Because I don't know about you, but I've been taught this and I see this all the time, right? This idea of going viral. We see it a lot. Now, this may fill my email list, but I'm going to get a lot of what I call parking lot leads. People who don't have enough information to make a decision, right? So I'm going to send them to a freebie and do these things. And yeah, if you do this correctly, it can be profitable, but it's a lot of freaking work. Now, this takes time. This means that someone comes into my world and it's going to take time. On the opposite side of this is one post that made me $50,000. And I'm not saying that as like a dollar amount makes a difference. It's the fact that one piece of content, somebody sees it, somebody who's never met me before can go through this and make a decision. Why? Because I've given them the information that allows them to do so. So I don't make them go on a wild goose chase. I don't make them go try and find the information and try and get the stuff they need to make a decision. I supply it to them right here and right now. And to give it to you straight, this is a long version. They're shorter versions, but if you see it, the big principle behind this is I'm disrupting their thought pattern. I'm giving them the tools necessary for them to be able to make a decision because I'm calling out the gap. I'm explaining why that gap didn't work for them. And then I'm explaining to them how I've developed something that innovates for that gap and why it works. It feeds their brain so that now they feel confident in making a decision. So that somebody who's never met you before, has never had any contact with you before, doesn't know anything about what you do, can come into your world and start making decisions. Okay? Because the truth of the matter is, messaging that makes money works a lot better if we don't have to try and drag them over months. Because we get lost in that, right? People are going to get lost in being able to see you, remember you, and do all of that. But if I can trigger something quickly for them, get them into an action state and give them enough to make a decision, then they can say yes. Now, one of the biggest factors to this is there's no intrigue in how I do it. Okay? I know that it sounds scary, but you need to be able to express to people how you deliver a result. We are not in the business of getting people to trust you blindly. Okay. We want people to trust you with full faith because they understand what you do. They understand why you do it the way you do it and how you do it. Okay. So I want to share with you that it's not just something I came up with. I have clients who say to me all the time, every single sales call that I've had has been an easy yes. My clients are so aligned with my message and my methodology, I don't have to pull my hair out. I don't have to convince people to work with me because that's not my job. Okay. Imagine the fact that you're not getting objections. You're not pulling people to a yes. You're not forcing them to do that. Your message does that work for you. Because that's what it's meant to do. We talked about this all week long, that your marketing should be doing the heavy lifting. Your message takes on the biggest role of all. Your messaging and your positioning are the biggest role of all. Okay? Same thing goes. I have clients who tell me all the time, I'm creating content and messaging that speaks to these types of clients. Everything I'm teaching you is exactly what people say. It's talking to the right clients. It's taking them on the right journey, and it's using the right words. Being able to do that shifts them into a point of having experiences like within 2 weeks, having 22 people DM you because it makes sense to them, right? Having it where you can't seem to find the time to do the things you need because you have people constantly asking you how to work with you. This is what it feels like when we understand how to communicate that, when we have a message that allows us to do that, because again, your leads want to sell themselves. They want to make decisions. Your message is meant to do that for them. So going back to what we talked about yesterday, knowing that the 3 things they're looking at is weighing the evidence, envisioning the possibilities, and selecting a solution, we do that through what we just shared, disrupting their thought patterns, being able to solve that solution in a way that they haven't seen before, and giving them the action state to move forward so that, again, they're moved to buy. They're moved to feeling like there is no other solution. It makes sense to them because those 3 things have happened. We've given them enough information to make a decision off of. Does this make sense? Are you guys understanding what we mean when we say, give them the information they need to make a decision? Give them the opportunity to see what we can do. So you need to learn how to create a disruption. What is it that they're doing right now? And why have they not made a decision? When we understand this, now we can solve for that gap. We identify that gap, and now you get to solve for it. Then you tell them how, right? Your solution is the how. How do we do this? So what I do with my clients is I teach them how to create methodology that plugs for the hole in the marketplace. It's their proprietary, innovative way of solving for the gap so that they no longer have to try and figure out how to explain it. They're not talking about an offer. They're not talking about features and benefits. They have a clear-cut way of expressing the gap in the market, why things haven't worked for them before, and how their methodology solves for that. We call this innovative authority. Okay. Then once you've understood that, once you can do that with your audience, they come into your world and they want to make decisions. So we use what's called bingeable authority. So the first step of what my clients do is they develop methodology that allows them to position themselves as the only solution. They've identified the gap. They've solved for that gap. They create the messaging that allows them to clearly communicate that so that they're bringing people into their world who immediately make decisions, because they know the messaging moneymakers. They know how to leverage messaging that allows them to do that. Then they use what we call bingeable authority. Bingeable authority is their way of getting people to pre-sell themselves, because your leads are perfectly capable of pre-selling themselves. So that's where we take them through that opportunity of quickly making that decision. And then all you get to do at the end is fulfill for that. Create a space where you now fulfill for that gap that you've now identified for them in creating a solution. Now, the coolest thing about this is your messaging, your sales system shouldn't be dependent upon an offer, because when it's dependent upon an offer, then you have to constantly shift your message based on your offer. When we create methodology gets to encompass any offer that you make, because we are selling the method that solves for their problem, meaning that it's giving them she knows how to solve my problem, and here's how she does it. The offering is simply how we fulfill on that offer. Okay, so it's a big shift in being able to understand the fact that we can sell methodology and therefore create a message that's repeatable, remembered, and something people can tell people over and over again. That is our goal with our message, right? Imagine the fact that instead of you having to share your message alone, now others can share it for you because it's a message that's repeatable for them. They can understand it and they can say, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Let me go tell other people. And then we develop a sales system that allows us to automate how people sell themselves, right? Like I talk about the fact that we use Bingeable Authority because it's leveraged like how Netflix gets people to binge watch a TV show. We do the same thing. We get them to binge watch you so that they can make a decision, so they could become a diehard fan, and therefore you can fulfill on that. If you guys have any questions about anything I shared with you over the last 3 days about what we've talked about when it comes to messaging moneymakers, understanding how we get people to shift into action by taking them out of their standard thought pattern and moving them into disrupting that and solving for the gap. Do you guys have any questions about anything I've shared so far? I know it's a lot over 3 days, so I want you to process it. Awesome. I'm glad it's been amazing. I'm glad it's making sense for you guys. But that's what I want you guys to understand. So I want to give you the opportunity now to see how I can support you possibly in being able to do this. So this is exactly the process I take my clients on, okay? It's literally developing a method. Imagine being able to walk away with and knowing exactly what you do, but not just what you do, but in a way that solves for a gap in the market. So how do you position that? How do you become incomparable so that you're no longer competing for attention? People are coming to you. They're saying she is the person who solves this problem in a way nobody else can. Then developing the patterns that allow us to have visibility and lead generation, people coming into your world and pre-selling themselves. We use, like I said, a Bingeable Authority system that gets them to fall in love with you within a matter of hours or days, and then helps you develop the way that you create those results at scale. Okay, because it's not simply about getting clients in the door. It's about how can I support them? How can I fulfill on the promise that I've made and do so at scale so that my business can continue to thrive? So we use what we call one offer framework and results mechanism that allows us to be able to accomplish that. Now, I'm going to stop my sharing for a minute just to make sure if any questions are popping up for you guys. Because the next step that is here, we've completed our journey over the last 3 days. And what I want to do is really invite you guys to a blueprint call. Now, I've had a few of you guys ask me what a blueprint call is. Do I have to pay for it? What does it look like? No, a blueprint call is a free call. It's done directly with me. What we're going to do is we're going to identify your current client acquisition. We're going to look at what are you currently doing in your business to bring new clients in? Everything from how you get in front of the new audiences all the way to how do you sign a client. What I'm going to do is I'm going to help you identify where the gaps and the opportunities are in your current process. Then what I'm going to show you is how the EasyYes method can support you in being able to solve for that gap. Okay. And these are completely free. My clients come onto these calls and they're blown away by the fact that they didn't see these opportunities. And then again, like I said, if we feel like it's a good fit, we'll share with you how the EasyYes method can work, because I know what it feels like to feel like you're constantly trying to stay top of mind and show up and you're busy, but you feel like you're not moving your business in the right direction. So even if you've had a blueprint call with me before, I want to invite you to do so again. And the reason why is we've recently opened up a new opportunity called the Bridge Program, which is a program in between my Sustainable Profit Academy that allows you to really start building out these building blocks. So even if you've gone through a call with me before and you haven't been able to jump into the program, we have a new program. So I really want to invite you to do that. So this is your opportunity for any questions, any last pieces that you want to share. Again, if you want to book a call, you can send me a message or book it on the replays. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed the last 3 days and that you guys have been able to gain some clarity and see the new direction that you're taking and being able to get ready to invest clients into your business. So yeah, go ahead.
Hiya. So I've loved it. It's been really, really good. It's been really eye-opening. I'm not doing everything right, clearly. I mean, I didn't think I was because I'm not getting the right results. So if I book a call, I just want to make you aware, I don't know whether you'd accept this. I'm currently on a program that I'm still paying for, so I wouldn't be able to join your thing yet, but I would definitely consider it in the near future because I'm like really excited about this. So would it still be worth booking a call?
Yeah, I highly suggest booking a call. The reason why is I'm not a pressure salesman. I tell people this all the time. I'm not going to pressure you into it, but I do think it's helpful because even on that call, I'm going to be able to show you where some opportunities are so that you can make some quick shifts in your business, but also to just see if it's even a good fit so that in the future you have something to look forward to. So I appreciate the transparency and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm very honest. I don't like not being honest. So excellent. I'll book. Where's the?
Awesome.
Is there a link somewhere to book?
Yeah, Julia, can you send her the link, please?
Thank you.
Of course.
It's been really good. Thanks.
So glad to hear that. Yeah. Any other questions I can answer for you about anything we've chatted over the last few days? And again, if questions come up, feel free to send us an email. We're more than happy to answer. And if you aren't already, make sure you've joined into my free Facebook group. We do have that space where you can additionally ask questions there and see all about how we do things. But again, I hope that you guys walk away from this being able to understand that Ready to Invest clients should be the norm in your business. You should be speaking to people who want to make decisions, and understanding the pathway that gets them to that is really all about shortcutting that time that it takes for someone to want to say yes, and the time it takes for you to show up in your business, because you're not meant to be an expert marketer or salesperson. You're here to serve and transform lives. And that means that you need to stay in that zone of genius and have something that does the heavy lifting for you. So with that said, thank you guys so much for spending some time with me this week. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the future.